Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah. Welcome to Writeopolis, featuring authors RJ Barker, Scott K. Andrews and Kid Power, and, often, a guest. Writeopolis is recorded live via Discord on alternating Sunday evenings, a conversational show with audience participation, bark on without the BS. Funded entirely through the generosity of our Patreon backers. Patreon.com/Writeopolis podcast. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.
Hey, Kit.
Hey, yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, it's good. Shall I let Gavin speak? Or not?
Well, I don't know. Can we stop him speaking later on if we have to?
Yeah, I can stop him speaking whenever I want. That's
oh, well,
good.
in that case, yeah, let's give him a sporting chance, shall we?
Okay. You should be able to unmute yourself now, Gav. Oh, he's not paying attention, is he?
You see.
No.
He's building it up.
Well, while he's messing about, I discovered there's another recording bot called G-Arc, which is Craig backwards.
Yes.
And apparently it's better. That's what I was told.
But you get both of them at the same time. If you get Craig, you get Jark at the same time.
Oh.
They both pop in. Because there have been a few times where Craig's fallen over, but Jark's picked up the slack, and I've used the Jark recording. So yeah.
Good old G-Arc.
Yeah.
Can you speak yet, Gav? It says you can speak.
It feels like almost a philosophical question at this point, doesn't it?
Yeah. Gav can speak, but does he have anything to say?
Ouch!
Well, no, it's just that he's not saying anything. So.
I'm not seeing Gav in the voice channel.
He's Sir Arthur.
Oh, of course he is. How could I forget?
He's a penguin, not a human being.
How come we've got Gavin and Sir Arthur then as two separate invite on the... Oh, I'm confused already.
Ah, right. He's speaking, and it's not working. He's just sent me a message. We've had this happen before, and we know you log out and back in again, and that fixes it.
Or, I mean, you could try looging out, just to be different.
Yeah, you could do that as well. See, I was pointing this out to somebody. I can't tell you that story because it gets somebody in trouble. I can sort of tell. Someone I know had to do a thing.
Right.
That was quite important, that involved talking about them, writing a sequence about themselves. And they came and asked me to do it. And they were very pleased with what I'd done, but shocked by the amount of typos in it. And I said, well, I can write, I just can't write.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I can write. I can't type, but I can write. Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely different skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's fine.
Sir Arthur is back.
Well,
he's
I'll
muted
be the judge
for now. He's muted for now. While Gav's messing about, we should point out we have been very let down by Scott this week.
We really have. Yeah, we really have.
He's chosen football over us.
Chosen the world of sportsball. I mean, what, I'm lost for words. Scott the Betrayer. Yes. We should change his custom title before next week to Scott the Betrayer.
We should. We will do that.
We are going to do that. There we go.
Yeah, we're going to do that. Right, you should be able to speak now, Gav. No? Is there still a Gavin Smith in the room? Can you see that?
No, I can only see Sir Arthur, but it was welcome at Gavin Smith, but that may have just been someone saying that because they knew that Gavin was here without. Let me have a look at the list of people on the other side, because I'm not seeing no. Have you made him a fancy guest or a?
Oh yeah, I made him. Oh, he's got no roles, has he? Oh, let's try making him a fancy guest.
Let's.
I don't usually do that. I usually just press a different button and it lets people do it.
Well, okay.
Try talking now, Gav. See what happens. And if nothing happens, just type in the chat that nothing happens.
Oh, you're definitely a fancy guest now.
Yeah, let's
I
make
wonder
him
if he should. I was going to say let's have him join the proletariat because that'll annoy him.
It's saying nothing, but if you can hear me, Gav, you're saying that in a chat that just briefly comes up on my screen. It's much easier for us if you say it in the actual chat on the main thing so everyone can see it. And we can use it for comedy reasons as well. Right. I'm going to boot Gav, see if that works.
Oh, so harsh.
Yeah. Well,
fair.
It's worth a try.
Let's be honest, this is the only reason you invited him on in the first place, right?
Yeah.
It's the only reason.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to boot you, Gav, and then rejoin and see if that works. So, kicking Sir Arthur. Oh, they will be able to rejoin again with a new invite. Or maybe I won't kick them then.
Yeah.
Let's get an invite copy.
He's back.
He's back. Is he talking?
He's now a fancy guest and me and a heroic proletariat.
There is no technical reason now for him not to be able to speak unless he's got his microphone switched off on his computer.
Or maybe he doesn't have a voice. Does anyone know? Has anyone heard this man speak before tonight?
Yeah, I've heard Gavin speak before.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, we may have very rudely invited him on to a show where you have to talk, and if he can't, that would be awkward.
No, he does it all through his eyes.
Again, he's trying to talk, he says in the chat.
And it's not working. Okay, right. Leave again and come back. This is the only solution we know.
I like how Fiddles did check to make sure the door's talking out loud. That's fair comment, Fiddles, really, because good. Right. Well,
I know that it can freak out sometimes if you're using it Bluetooth, because it doesn't like me using Bluetooth headphones. It gets very upset about me doing that. Yeah, so I have to plug my headphones in, even though they're incredibly expensive Bluetooth headphones, and this is my only actual excuse to use them.
Well, that's
which is quite
technology.
Upsetting. All right, he's back. This time it says he can speak. He doesn't need a.
Here we go. I believe now.
Check you've not defaulted to push to talk. I seem to remember somebody mentioning that before. Is push to talk something the person does or something we can solve?
Ooh, I don't know. Is that somewhere in our... where would it be? It would be in settings, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I presume
Just have a look and see where it is. Voice and video. Okay, so it's in the menu, but I don't think we can do it for them.
Yeah.
So,
okay, Gav, can you hear us? If you could hear us,
hang on,
RJ, can you hear me?
There
I can
he
hear you
is.
now. Yeah.
All right, that's done it. Thank you very much.
Did you switch your microphone on?
No, it was a push to talk thing.
There we go.
That was a remarkably stressful 9 minutes. That was really nerve-wracking.
Only for you, because we're very used to that.
Yeah, we do it every fortnight. We do that. It's honestly, it's quite relaxed.
So, well, good. I'm glad you were relaxed. I actually went and got technical support from my partner, who works at Talk, and then it'll work. So. That's fully on brand for RJ.
Let's do the intro.
I'm going to mute myself so you can't hear me drinking water, but I daren't touch anything now.
We can cope with drinking. Anyway, it's Sunday. It's Gavin's 9 minutes late, and it's Writeopolis.
Yay!
I'm here with Kit. As we've said, we know Scott. He's betrayed us for football.
Yes.
Very upsetting.
The shame will be eternal.
Yeah, I'm surprised we've not had Gav on earlier because we kind of know him, but maybe that's why we've not. Maybe that's why we've not had him on earlier. Do you want to give us? I'm getting some feedback on my mic. I can hear me, which is quite confusing. Do you want to just give us a little introduction to the world of Gavin G Smith, Gav?
I guess I'm going to have to now because you've sort of led me into it. I am a science fiction, less occasionally fantasy, and less occasionally horror author. I've written. I feel I should know how many books I've written, but I can never remember. And some of them I've co-written, so it becomes. I think there's about a dozen books and various other novellas and things. Most recently is a zombie novel called Spec Ops Z, which was just re-released by Rebellion. I'm currently working on a crime novel. I teach writing for film to undergraduates, and I've just finished doing some work for a computer games company and helping world build a new game which is due in about 2 years' time. And that's kind of me. So I'm taking it easy on July. You say your co-host is not here. Is there some kind of sporting tournament happening at the moment?
Yeah. I actually know that is because I heard them score the whole the whole of where I live just roared.
I mean, I assumed there was some kind of sporting thing happening because, of course, London is on fire at the moment, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing says supporting your team like setting fire at your capital
city. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Bit of property damage just to show how patriotic you are. No, I agree. I got to say, Gavin, I think I really admire the power move of not knowing how many books you've written. By the way, as opening gambits go, I like that. That's got a good energy to it. I like that. I approve.
I think that's less power move and more incompetence stroke inability to simply count. So
you're a writer, not a mathematician, man. Who cares?
Well, quite. Yes.
Leave the numbers to the bean counters. We're creatives. It's fine.
We've got some questions from the floor already. First of all, they want to know if you're writing a crime novel, do you have an evil twin?
I had an evil twin. I murdered it.
Oh,
hang on. I think that makes you the evil twin.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure if you murdered them, you're the evil twin.
Oh, not if it was in self-defense.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, what a hard. No, it was more whim.
No, okay. Yeah, you are the evil twin. Confirmed. Yeah. Gavin is the evil twin.
But I mean, it feels like I've just come on here to be called names.
Yeah.
No. We've just accused you of homicide. That's not name calling. This is actually lying.
That's a serious allegation. Yeah.
Is it an accusation if I've already owned up
to
it?
It? We've elicited a confession.
Yeah,
and we're taking it from there.
So Katie Tree on chat has just said putting a flare up your bum. I mean, is that?
Don't feel you have to.
No, well,
I believe that's referencing something an England fan has done.
Yes,
I believe so. To show his support for his team.
I can assure you, no England fan has put a flare up my bum.
Fiddles would like to know if the game is under NDA, or can you tell us anything about it?
It is completely and totally under NDA. Unfortunately, it will remain that way for some time. But I think if you either follow my account or follow the Twitter account of DPS Games, you'll see it as these things are sort of released. But yeah, it's still very early in production at the moment. So I'm sorry, I can't really say much about it. So yeah, I feel I kind of should unfairly shut down that question in an interview, and I'm just horribly teasing people now. So yeah,
we'll talk about what it is. Anyone not using headphones? Because I keep hearing myself, and it's very odd.
I'm using headphones.
As am I, so I don't know what's causing that. I'm afraid.
It might be.
Well, I mean, I think I'm using headphones, but it's Discord, so who can actually know? For all I know, I'm shouting.
Am I still there?
Yes, you are.
My echo seems to have gone, so I'm not using my fancy expensive microphone either, as well as my fancy expensive Bluetooth headphones. Gavin, you ruined it tonight.
Have I? I certainly feel I've been reasonably high maintenance, but now I've calmed down a bit. I don't really have a great deal of issue with that.
You are the
we're
first.
good about it.
You are the first guest to admit to a homicide within the first 15 minutes. It normally takes us at least an hour to wear them down. So
Right. That's admittedly, I only admitted to the homicide because I panicked. But you know. You guys are like the cracker. The two of you are Robbie Coltrane.
Well, between us, probably.
Yeah.
Talking of cracker, because it's probably going to be Kit's answer.
It is.
We could flick onto what media we've been consuming recently.
Yeah.
Just a bit. So, do you want to start off, Kit?
Yeah, because I actually have. We finished the run of the original series of Cracker last night. So that's mainly what we've been watching, the missus and I, over the last couple of weeks, and it's been it's been great. I think I mentioned last time how the weird part about watching that show now is it feels like a period piece. Because there's been a lot of TV shows recently, crime dramas in particular, that have been set in the 80s and the early 90s. And watching Cracker, it almost feels like one of those, except of course it's not. It's just that's when it was made, you know. So that's been odd, but I've just enjoyed it so much. It was probably my favourite television program in the world when I watched it as a teenager, and I still think it's probably one of the best TV shows anyone's ever made. I just think the writing is just ferocious. The shape of it is very strange, because it does have this thing where the main arc really finishes after the first story of season 3, and then you've got these 2 extra ones at the end, which do feel a bit superfluous, because they're the ones by Paul Abbott. Jimmy McGovern had given up by that point, but they're good stories. I wouldn't be without them, and I actually do think season 3 does end very well. The final story, True Romance, is just fantastic. When it finally, inevitably, you get the story where one of the psychopaths goes after Fitz, right? And I think as a way of closing out the series, it was great. So no, I really enjoyed it. Coltrane's amazing. The whole cast is amazing, really. It's a superb cast. But the sheer impact it had on me as a piece of writing, I think I hadn't appreciated till this time out. It really is like, that's where you get a lot of your desire to just keep turning the screws, you know, because that's the thing. I think it's like a soap opera from hell, you know. Just everything just gets worse and worse and worse for the main cast. And the other thing I realised that is impressive about it is, I mean, this is standard now in TV, but it was still somewhat unusual at the time, especially in police procedurals. There's no steady state ever in Cracker. Everything that happens in every story influences what happens afterwards, the interactions between the characters, even in season 1. And then in season 2, it's just like a hand grenade and a hand grenade and a hand grenade. You know, it just goes off and off and off, and all this kind of amazing stuff happens. And I think that impresses me too, and that kind of I think I hadn't realised that was an influence, but I think it probably is. So yeah, that's just been great. It's been such a joy to go back to that show, and a relief that it stands up. You know,
I remember it as Robbie Coltrane getting more and more fits, more and more hateable as it goes through. There's no redemption for him. You hate him more. You say, oh.
Yeah, no redemption arc at all. Yeah. And I love that. I mean, that's one of the many things I love about it. I mean, he is an anti-hero for sure. He's an awful, awful person who happens to be very, very good at one thing. And the reasons that he does what he does are you know, his motives are the worst possible motives. They're vanity, you know, vanity and cheap sentimentality. And because he thinks he might be able to get in the knickers of one of the officers that he's working with. I mean, he's just awful. And as you say, that doesn't change. He isn't redeemed by the end. Fitz doesn't change. He doesn't grow. He really doesn't.
Detectives never do that.
No,
that's the thing with detective fiction. They just don't change because that's not what it's about.
I think that's the thing in almost any ongoing serial where they want them to come back. The characters don't have the arc that we as writers are supposed to give all our characters, because if they do change, then they're gone. I mean, Sherlock Holmes, if he has a character arc, is no longer Sherlock Holmes, and I think you can see that in modern versions of Sherlock Holmes and modern versions of James Bond, where they try to do the arc, and it starts to do funny things to the characters.
They did it for it worked for not Sherlock, the American one.
Elementary.
Elementary. Yeah. Although his central character didn't change, but the softening of him across the entire series was done really well and didn't ruin him. It's far superior to the British Sherlock. I think is Elementary though, just cut above it in all ways.
We got about halfway through Elementary, and then it was no longer free. it disappeared from Amazon, so I think we'll go back to. I was enjoying it. Yeah. We'll go back to it at some point.
It's really good. It's just, we watched all of Sweet Tooth, which is on Netflix, I think, which is basically made for me. It's a boy with antlers. And it is just brilliant.
I have images of RJ sat on the floor with his nose pressed against the television, just wishing that little bit harder. Is it any good? Because it could just be rubbish, but it's got a boy with antlers in it. So RJ's watching it from start to finish.
Absolutely brilliant. And that's not just me. Lindy thought that as well. And Alex and Boy thought it as well. We all loved it. And it is that great thing of he is a complete innocent who just believes everything's going to turn out all right. Don't you say a word, Gavin Smith. And it's him. Right. Shut up. And it's him and a kind of gruff, unpleasant man who kind of
RJ, when you're watching this program, is your TV switched on, or is this just going on in your head?
But the thing about Sweet Tooth is it goes to some really dark places. Really dark places that I'm not going to say because it'll spoil it for people. But it is overall this wonderful story of hope and people coming together. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. And it's apparently based on a comic, but I think the comic's really dark, and they just decided the world doesn't need that now, and they did this kind of thing that's full of hope and possibility, and it's lovely. Watch it, Kit. Watch it with your daughter.
Okay,
because I think they would love it as well. It's just
if I watch it and don't like it, can I shout at you?
Yes, and for all the effect that will have on me. You can shout all day, I suppose.
You just mute me.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. And also we watched Black Widow today, which I don't think Kit has watched. So I'm not gonna. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
We saw it on Friday. I did enjoy it. I need to watch it again. Which is odd.
Without being spoilery, I think the actual Black Widow character is the least interesting thing in it.
I think I like Black Widow because of cash that she has built up in previous films. The interesting thing I found about Black Widow is that Johansson played her differently in every film that Black Widow was in. Sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. And that idea being that she was searching for an identity. Because she was so used to pretending to be one thing or pretending to be another thing. And I find that interesting about the character. But yes, I do accept RJ's point.
But we won't say any more about it because Kit has not watched it.
I'm very, very shallowly. I'm just super excited that Red Guardian's in it. That's kind of I'm just super excited about that. So
it's all the people around Black Widow are far more watchable than she is. I think she was the producer of it, so I presume that's a definite decision on her part. So they're really given space to shine.
Oh, cool. All right, well, I look forward to that now.
And I'm not sure about it sitting in the world. That was all lost on me.
I think for watching Black Widow, everybody should pity my partner as I sort of whisper inside her Marvel secrets to her from sort of reading the comments and reading the comics. As I was a teenager, it's just, I don't care. I just don't. Will you stop telling me these things? They've got nothing to do with what I'm trying to watch.
They're neither fascinating nor are they actually facts.
They're not real people, Gavin. Iain, stop it. And this isn't romantic. And we've also started watching a thing that I'd never heard of before that we came across called Lilyhammer.
That rings a bell.
That's the guy from
Sopranos,
the E Street Band.
Yes.
Steve Van Zandt.
Yeah, and
Who's also the saxophonist for Bruce Springsteen.
Guitar player, but yes.
yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Rhythm
And,
guitarist.
He's a mafia hood who's goes witness protection to stay in Lilyhammer.
Yeah.
And it's very odd. I'm not sure I like it, but I kind of do. But it's odd. And I'm playing Borderlands 3 on the PlayStation 4, which is lots of fun in a kind
Nice.
of
Oh yeah, I've
stupid-
been. Sorry, I didn't mention gaming. Fortnite has just been consuming me. The last season, the latest season of Fortnite, is glorious. I think they've done something really fun with this. The theme is alien invasion, and they're just finding ways to keep it fresh by introducing new elements, new weapons every couple of weeks. And me and Kiddo have been spending slightly too much time blasting our way across the Fortnite island over the last couple of weeks. It's been magical. She's so good with a sniper rifle now. We've got this whole strategy where I basically charge in from the side with a shotgun, ducking and weaving to draw their fire, and then she just pops them off with headshots. It's so awesome. Like, I just run towards them kamikaze style. They're shooting at me, and then I just hear this pop, and they just explode in a shower of loot. And I'm like, "Yep, another kill for Kiddo. Chalk it up." Magic.
The boy wasn't that interested. I can't. He's all right. I'm not that fussed about it.
No, it's really been bit by. It helps that all of her mates are into it. So on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning, she'll often get in touch with the mates, and they'll be playing online, and that helps. So they form a little squad and go off and deliver death to everybody else because they're all really good.
What about you, Gav? What have you been on with?
I knew you were going to come round to this, and my mind has, of course, gone completely blank. And I want to say we've been watching Loki, but it just sounds like all I do is watch Marvel stuff.
I've been really enjoying Loki, and he's definitely playing him as Rick Mayall. It's lovely.
Yeah, I've been watching Loki too. Yeah, it's been fun.
I think we just started watching Jupiter thingy, the adaptation of the Mark Millar comic. Jupiter's Legacy.
Oh yeah, I watched about 2 of those and then was very bored.
Okay.
That's a good review.
Well, I've just watched the first one, so there's something to look forward to. Thanks, RJ. I sort of watched it, and I was kind of enjoying it, but you're kind of enjoying it with the feeling that I know this story.
Yeah.
It's like The Boys and Watchmen to an extent, and I mean Watchmen was great in the 80s, but it's these certain very familiar superhero characters that we're going to now take apart and look at them again. You go, oh, yeah, have we not done that really a lot? Which sort of brings me to a theory about the Marvel stuff. I think one of the reasons that the Marvel films do so much better than other superhero films is they're not superhero films. Black Widow's a spy thriller. They make fantasy films. They make thrillers. They make science fiction films. They very rarely make a superhero film.
As the other thing I'd say, I've been reading a book that's fantastic called The Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, which is about fungus and how it is everywhere and touches everything, even though we don't know it. And that's kind of a research thing, but it's just a fascinating book and well worth your time if you see it anywhere.
I was desperately trying to remember the word entangled yesterday.
Well, I've helped you out.
Well, you're welcome.
It's not used to me now. I'm in a different conversation. So in many ways, all RJ's doing is taunting me.
Just ring up whoever you were speaking to them and just when the answer just got entangled and then put it down.
There you go.
I'll scream it at them.
In the street. Yeah.
Actually, do you need me? I can just go and message them on Twitter now.
You can do that while we're talking.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, we did that.
I'm not sure I want to touch anything on my computer at the moment. It seems to be working, and I don't want to curse it.
I'm just telling Ruth what the name of the fungus book is because it's good.
Yeah, you talked about reading. I'm trying to remember what I've been reading. I haven't got a lot of reading done, obviously, because Fortnight. But I read. I'm still reading Diamonds. I'm still rereading Diamonds Are Forever for the podcast that I'll be doing soon. I'm still reading a couple of short story collections, dipping in and out. And I just started a book. I can't remember the title of it, but I just started a book about the downward spiral. I just got a non-fiction book on the Resner, the 9 Inch Nails and Downward Spiral. But I've only read the first sort of the introduction and the first chapter of that. But it's good so far. I'm enjoying it. So I'll no doubt I'll still be reading it in 2 weeks' time, and then I'll have the name and stuff. I'm doing that for the site. I should be reviewing that for the site once I've finished it. But it's nice to read. It's nice to read a non-fiction book about music, actually, because I've been thinking about a non-fiction music project in the not-too-distant future, so it's good to do a bit of research.
That's weird.
Is that out? Sorry.
I've been thinking about a non-fiction music project as well, but probably a completely different one. Unless
I hope it's a different one.
Yeah. Who knows? That'd be weird.
I think sometimes RJ licks the inside of people's brains so he can steal secrets from them and non-fiction music projects.
That would explain a lot, actually, yeah.
It would, wouldn't it?
Actually, on the music biographies, I went back and tried again with the Fucked by Rock by Zodiac Mind Warp, which should be amazing, and is just terrible. It's just awful. And he wrote the greatest rock song ever in Prime Mover, but it's really offensive and thinks it's clever and it isn't. It's just like lists of terrible things and just like, you're cleverer than this, better than this. I'm so let down.
I got to say, The Dirt was a bit like that. I mean, I don't really know why. Well, I do know why I read it because someone lent it to me, and I felt bad if I didn't read it. But I'm not a big Motley Crue fan anyway, which didn't help. But I just reading that, I was just like, okay, so you were just really, really awful people the entire time. Okay, great. That's a few hours of my life I'm not getting back. Thanks.
On the crime book that's with my agent at the moment. I did a lot of research into Led Zeppelin for reasons which will become apparent if it ever goes out to market. But they too were reasonably unpleasant people. But I think they get better writers. But I mean, see our conversation about Cracker earlier on. We like unpleasant people.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Robert Plant Detective. That sounds fantastic to me. I'm sold.
I think Plant and Page is an ITV2 detective series, isn't it?
That
already is. Or is it ITV3?
That's early afternoon.
That's
Plant
true.
and Page.
Plant and Page. Page and Plant. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they run a library struck garden centre and solve crimes.
I don't know if you're joking. I think we've reached this point in history that could be true.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to write it now.
Another cozy crime story.
Yeah.
Is the Downward Spiral book out yet? Or have you got a review copy?
God, embarrassingly, I don't even know that much. It's not obviously marked as a review copy, so I think it is out, actually, yeah.
I think I'll have to get hold of that.
I'm really embarrassed that I can remember neither the name nor the author. That's borderline unforgivable, but...
I could go and look it up, but I'm worried that RJ would mute me again.
No, I'm looking it up now. I'm seeing if I can find the email from Jim, because I got it for the website, so I'm just looking it up.
I'll tell you what is great, even though he's absolutely horrendous and I hate him all the way through the book, is Mark Lanigan's biography from Screaming Trees. He's just a disaster of a human being and is utterly unrepentant about it. It's kind of... I read Klaus Kinski's biography, where you kind of, by the end, glad he's dead. But
Jesus, RJ.
Honestly, if you read it, he's just vile. And you understand why Werner Herzog threatened to shoot him. You're kind of surprised he didn't. But he's unrepentant about it. There's no kind of apology in him. And Mark Lanigan is similar, but not quite as bad, in that you kind of get the feeling he starts to realise. But that's kind of a can't look away style of biography. But it's fantastic. It's worth a read.
So the book's called Into the Never, and it's by a guy called Adam Steiner, and I'm pretty sure it is out already. Yeah, and it's as I say, I'm only just started it, but I am really enjoying it so far. It's pretty good. And it's kind of, I think it's what I like. One of the things I like about it is the structure, because it uses each song as a kickoff point for an essay covering different aspects of the themes of the overall. But it goes beyond that. There's a few chapters near the end where it wraps it up. But I like that. I like that structure of using the songs as a kickoff point, because I did a similar thing with when I did the book on the Tommy movie. You know, I used the songs as the spine for it, and I found it worked really well. So yeah. But it's, as I say, good so far, but very early days. So,
what have we all been working on?
Dead silence.
That shut everybody up, didn't it?
I finished my 18-month contract on the game a couple of weeks ago, so I'm actually taking it. I'm having a bit of a break in July and into August. I've got to decide what I'm going to write next, and I've got a couple of choices. I've got 2 ideas for books, and I can't make up my mind which one to do. But my idea of taking a break was to go, I know, I'll write a screenplay. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 months. Be writing a low-budget feature film. It's a horror film set the day after the Battle of Culloden.
That sounds full of joy and happiness. Not 10 minutes ago you said you were glad somebody was dead. yeah. I hope you're pitching it as Attack the Block with Kilts.
Nice.
I am now.
That's a weird thing, though, because I can't take. I did when we went away for a week. I didn't do any writing for that week much. But if I stop a thing, it's like Pinky in the Brain. What do we do now?
Yeah.
We do what we do every day. We write a novel, and I can't stop. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's an obsession. It's not a job.
Yeah, no, I'm very similar. I find it. I mean, I'm not working on the projects as often as I'd like, but I'm thinking about them every single day. That there's not a day where I'm not churning over a piece of writing. At the moment, I've finally got the excruciating sex scene written in the novel, so that's good. That took me I got over the hump. Let's just make the joke now. Let's just make it now, and you can all have your little laugh, and then we can get on with our conversation. So I did that, and we've mapped out. Or I think we found a really exciting way to deal with the. We had a bit of a stumbling block with between Act 4 and Act 5. We wanted to do a particular sequence where we covered the. Doesn't really matter, but it's a part of the plot, and we had to cover it somewhere. And we thought actually between Act 4 and Act 5, we just do a drop in where we do a kind of interlude thing where we covered this thing. And I was in the shower yesterday. So James, who I'm writing it with, co-authoring it with, we last night we started chatting about it, saying, okay, you do that bit, I'll do that bit. And then this Saturday, I'm in the shower, and I suddenly had the idea of like, hang on, no, we could do it this way. And I got in touch with him and said, you know, have you started yet? And he said, no. I said, okay, don't start. What if we do it like this? And I think we're going to use a series of found documents to tell that bit of the story rather than what we were going to do before. And I think it's going to, and I think it's going to work really well, both where it falls in the story and the particular bit of the story we're trying to tell. I think doing it through found documents is absolutely the way to go. Because we're having to break format a bit to do it anyway. So let's acknowledge the fact that we're breaking format by telling it in a different way that hopefully will make it work better. I actually think it will make it quicker as well. Because I think a lot of the you can actually, you know, if you're using like a newspaper article or you're using like a piece of official documentation, you can just lay out the facts very, very baldly and very quickly. And yet it still feels like storytelling, hopefully, if we've done it right. So quite pleased with that as a little breakthrough. And then on non-fiction, I'm writing the next My Life in Horror essay on the Columbine massacre, so that's been a lot of fun. And I'm really kind of
jolly this week, aren't we?
We really are.
I did a lot of research into Columbine a few years back for a script I was working on, which came to naught. But yeah, it's not fun reading.
Oh, did you read the big book? I can't remember the guy who wrote it, but by the journalist,
the journalist guy. Yeah.
Oh man, I mean it's an incredibly impressive piece of work, and you do kind of wonder how on earth he got through it. I mean, I do have I have an enormous amount of respect for someone who would put, because it took him like a decade to write too, you know, and it's just, and he really does lay it out, you know, and it really is an incredibly impressive piece of writing, and also like it's an impressive piece of journalism, but it's also an impressive piece of writing. The way he approaches the story, and he tells it through these kind of two separate timelines, and he keeps weaving the events of the day with the events of the previous months and the following months, and it shouldn't work. It should be a mess, but it works really, really well, and it actually conveys what happened really well. But crucially, I think because he did it that way, it breaks up having to deal with the events of the day, because they're just so horrific. You know, it's so tough to get through. And I think it very intelligently, by treating each of the deaths and each of the attacks as like a ripple, and following the ripples out in time in each direction almost. I don't know. It's a really impressive piece of writing. But yeah, it's because I'm writing about this is a personal essay, so it really is about the impact that the story had on me at the age I was as a teenager or late early 20s Marilyn Manson fan, and the initial reporting of how that story came across and how devastating it was, and then learning many, many years later that almost everything that we were told about the motives of the killers was just a nonsense, right? It was just not. They weren't any of the things. They weren't particularly bullied. They certainly weren't goths. They weren't into Marilyn Manson. They weren't like that whole narrative. You basically had one kid who was a 1 in a million outright psychopath, almost like a classic psychopath, and he had another kid who was, you know, had a personality type that led to him being led into danger potentially by the wrong kind of person. It was just, you know, it was one of those kind of just a horrible piece of happenstance, really, in that sense. I mean, you know, there's a whole other conversation about the fact they had access to high-powered firearms, and that's a whole other thing. But you know, the core of it, it's like, yeah, none of the story we were told about it basically was true. None of it was true. They were just, you know, it was. I met the journalist. He says this amazing thing where he's talking about I think it's Eric, and he said, I was expecting to feel empathy, and with Eric, it was just like studying a virus. You know, there was just nothing there at all with this kid. But yeah, sorry, I sidetracked us there. I do apologise.
Just remind me, we've been watching a thing called Real Detective, which is also on Netflix, which goes back over detectives and how they solve murders. And I think a lot of the cases are American, but I think it's done by a Canadian company. It has a lot less of a sort of, whoa, murders feel than some American stuff. It can be quite sort of uncomfortably graphic. And it's really interesting to watch these policemen and see the empathy they have for the victims. And there's one particular one about a child that was murdered, where if you can walk away from it without thinking about this, I mean, there's a lot is wrong with American policing. But if you can walk away without thinking, right, that you are a genuinely good man,
right?
It's just to see him talk about it and how determined he was when everything was turning around and going, we could walk away from this, really, and he wouldn't. It's really interesting. And on the flip side of that, have you seen the thing? I don't know if it's on BBC. It's got Amelia Fox and a guy, and they look at cold cases, and it's really uncomfortable. I can't remember the name of it. It's just awful. Basically, they go through the Wikipedia article, but they present it as if they're doing an investigation. And they ring each other up, and there's dramatic music, and it's just, you just think, you goals. And I know she isn't. She's lovely. She's a really nice person. I've seen her interviewed. She's fantastic. But the way it's been put together, you're just like, oh, no, this is the worst sort of Channel 5-ish making TV programs out of people's pain stuff. I can't remember what it's called.
I must admit, you're not selling it to me.
No, it's worth watching one, because you kind of watch it and think, how did this get made?
Right.
Who didn't watch this and think, no, we've got this wrong?
Do you then go to your happy place and watch Sweet Tooth?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Which may or may not actually exist, right? I mean, we're still. I still think there's a chance this is the Tyler Durden of RJ's TV shows.
Can't you imagine Fight Club with RJ?
It would be a kid with antlers, wouldn't it? It would be a kid with antlers. That's what RJ would see as his idealised version.
RJ, if you could fight anybody at all in the entire history of the world, who would you fight?
I wouldn't fight anybody. I don't agree with violence.
You're missing the point. You have to fight somebody, RJ. Who would it be?
Stephen Hawking.
RJ!
You're just trying to be controversial now.
No, it's nothing to do with controversy. It's to do with the fact that he couldn't catch me.
Oh dear!
That's why he's a brilliant man. And I wouldn't want to hurt him, and I'd run away. and I'm sure there are other people who couldn't catch me, but
why take the chance, right?
Yeah. And also, if I did have to fight him and beat him up, I'd like to be able to say that I beat someone who's sort of genuinely brilliant.
Okay, that was
that didn't go where I thought it was going to go.
Of course it didn't, Gavin. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction.
I'm not sure whose fault that was. Who is the bad person here? I think we're seeing a dark side to RJ here.
But you've brought it out of him. That's the thing. So yeah,
it's Channel 4 and it's called In the Footsteps of Killers.
Okay,
that's the thing, and I recommend watching one episode just so you can think, oh dear, no.
Did either of you watch? I know it's a few weeks on since it came out, but did either of you watch Sons of Sam?
No.
I watched a bit of it, but I just thought, I don't want to watch this because it's about someone's descent into mental illness, isn't it?
It's a little bit more complicated than that.
The story already.
So I've only got the documentary to go on, and it suggests that there was some of what the author, whose name I can't remember, which seems to be a theme of this evening. That there was something to his story, but not to the extent that he made it out to be, and not to the extent it was further blown up to be by the satanic panic.
Right.
But there was bits of that I found genuinely chilling, that have really, really stayed with me. That really sort of... some of the things that were going on, whether or not it was actually happening or it was happening in the writer's head, just sort of did that thing where it turns, the world goes from a place that you understand to a world that is cold and hostile. I don't know, I found it very, very chilling. And it stuck with me, and I keep on thinking about it.
You see, there was Gav saying that I'd found Sweet Tooth something that's like me on television, but he's found his.
I'm not sure what you're accusing me of.
The world is cold and dark and terrifying.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a bad time to point out that I'm a born optimist, isn't it?
Well, I think I've got to be honest, Gavin. Since you asked the question, I want to know who you'd fight now.
Who I'd fight?
Yeah.
That's not how this game is played. I want to make RJ's life difficult. I think I would look for someone that I feel has done a great deal of damage, probably in the political sphere, that I also think is reasonably weak, then attack them from behind with a crowbar.
Nice.
It's Nigel
funny enough,
Farage, isn't it?
that's
just...
no. Gavin very carefully did not name an individual, and I respect that. Right? I think Gavin and I understand each other very well. I'm right there with him, and let's not actually get anyone in trouble here.
I don't want to be arrested by Special Branch for making threats.
If I may, my choice, having thought about it, and apologies in advance for high roading both of you, but my pick is Hitler. Just to be clear, because you did say anyone in history, and honestly, I think I could take him, and it would be a pleasure to do so. There we go.
The thing is, when do you do it? Because if you do it early, he was a World War I veteran with who won the Iron Cross.
Yeah, I don't care. I know where he ended up, so I've got the advantage. You see, so no, I'm fine. Whatever.
Yeah, okay, no, go for it. I wish you the best of luck.
The thing is, it's best not to do it early because there's a really interesting thing. It was actually about Hitler, but it touched on the idea of going back in time and killing Hitler, and it said actually Germany lost the war because of Hitler, in that he was useless and he interfered in so many of their military decisions.
I think it was
basically lost it for them. But if you went back and killed him, they might have had somebody who knew what they were doing in charge.
I mean, that's one of those things, isn't it, where how much of it is down... That's the thing about historic forces versus great man theory, right? Like, if you take out Hitler, is Germany still going to go Nazi? Because the Nazi movement was always going to happen because the historical circumstances were such that it was going to happen.
Well, I wonder if it would have happened elsewhere. I mean, what if it had happened here? It wasn't as though the same powers weren't on the march in the UK at the time. So,
yes, one of the many things about the way British history is taught that drives me absolutely around the bend is the fact that there is no acknowledgement whatsoever of just how powerful the British fascists were at one point, and how dangerous they were. It's really we allied that almost completely in the way we talk about the history of that period, and it's, I think, to our incredible detriment, especially in 2021, he said pointedly.
Not only to our detriment, it sort of ignores the likes of the people who fought the fascists at Cable Street.
Absolutely.
There is something heroic going on there. That we ignore because we don't want to talk about the difficulties of our fascistic past.
Yeah, right. We don't want to admit to the bad guys being there, so we ignore the fact that there were also street heroes who... No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And working class people.
Yeah, well, yes, let's not acknowledge they exist either. I mean,
goodness,
where could that end, Gavin? For goodness sakes, man. Won't somebody think of the children? Good.
Back to what we were working on from Nazism.
Well, I actually wanted to go to one of the questions and it's a little bit up because I think, and we talked about it too quickly for me. I can't find it now because technology. But it's something along the lines of what is so difficult about writing sex scenes. And I have a theory about that. You know how we all think that, the things that we... RJ notwithstanding, that we all think that we're reasonably normal people. And this isn't that, that we aren't aware of our own eccentricities and things like that. But we have a kind of certain feeling around us that what we do, everybody else is doing,
right?
To one way or another. But that's nonsense. It's just not. So we do things that we think are normal that other people think are very, very strange. And I think the difficulty in writing sex scenes is we're going to get caught.
Right.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. We've said that the worry is that you write this sex scene and find out that not everybody actually does the things you think everybody does. And suddenly...
Yeah, like ear sex.
What?
Like ear sex.
Yeah, I'm not reading any of Gavin's sex scenes. Straight off. I tend to skip them in books.
The thing about that, though, is I think the great paradox of that for me is sex is one of those things that almost everybody does do, right? And yet you're right, and yet it does feel like, oh god.
That's why one of the reasons I don't want to write it, because when everybody knows what something is like, it's much easier to expose how bad you are at writing.
and it's a nightmare when you know authors. You know the authors in question, and you don't want to read a sex scene written by one of your mates, or worse, somebody you actually don't like.
Well, I don't know. That might be oddly comforting because you might read it and be like, "Well, that's shit." at least that person I don't like is shit in bed.
You might read it and think, well, that didn't take as long.
Exactly.
There wasn't the page count I expected there.
But there is the risk, right? I understand. Yeah, it's a high risk strategy at that point.
But you're co-authoring it, so you can just blame it. You are.
Oh yeah. No, I'm totally going to blame it all on James.
So
and only the people who listen to this show will know the truth.
Yeah. Joe Abercrombie's approach is make everything as awkward and embarrassing as possible.
Does they mean in the book or just...
just tell us too much about Joe Abercrombie's personal
life? I was going to say, Fiddles is now explaining about their torrid love affair with Joe Abercrombie, which is...
I could actually see Joe being difficult in bed.
Oh God, this is the worst episode we've done.
If anybody is repeating that on Twitter, can they say that RJ said it?
You know this is recorded, don't you, Gal?
Sorry?
You know we record
why would you do that, RJ? If you record it, it can be played back in court. I've already admitted to murder.
Anyway, I had my book cover reveal this week.
You did.
To get us away from sex and dictators and Nazism.
And murder, yeah.
And murder, yeah, which was lovely. It's very yellow. Orange.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so pretty, according to Katie Tree.
It is. It has a sinking ship on it, which I quite like, and that made me happy. And I've been writing my new fantasy thing. I'm 55k into it now, which is...
Nice.
You're
storming along on that, aren't you?
Well, I already had 20, so...
Oh, okay.
I'm not... But I was kind of worried that I wouldn't be able to get into it because I'd not written anything fantasy-ish for quite a long time, but it's doing its thing. And I'm editing... Oh, well, I'm not editing. RJ Dark is doing a final edit on the second Mal and Jackie book, which is called...
Ooh, excited for that.
Yeah, and it's quite good. I've got a thing where I've... You know when you've done a thing and you knew when you did it at the time that you'd half-assed it?
Yep.
Yeah, I've done that and I'm having to fix it now, which is annoying. It's not a hard fix, it's just silly. And I'm annoyed with myself for not trying hard enough. First time.
I call that hating your future self.
Yeah. Leave in mind myself.
Yeah, but you do have those days though where you're not so much writing as shoveling shit from a standing position, and you do still have to get through those days. And I think and the payment for that is when you come back in 2 months' time and you've got to edit, and then you go, "Oh, I was really shoveling shit from a standing position that day, wasn't I? Damn it."
I often find that those days what I've written is actually a lot better than I thought it was, but that might just mean I'm completely deluded, and it gets to my editor, and my editor is just going, "What the hell is this? Why have you written it?"
No, I think...
Why would you send this to me? The fact that you have sent this to me shows that you don't respect me as an editor or indeed a human being.
Or indeed yourself.
You're a terrible, terrible person.
I think sometimes you need space though, like in Numbers Game, there's a motive in it that does revolve around numbers, and in the original version, right up until almost the last version, the maths was in the book that explained how it worked.
Right.
And it was only on the last version when I thought, I don't actually need any of the maths. I'll just sort of hand wave at it. And it just works so much better, but I couldn't see it until I had that distance. And I think this is a similar thing in this book as well. So, yeah, there's that. Do we do... Katie has asked signed copies of The Bone Ship's Wake. If you ask in the little bookshop, they will sort it out. If not, I imagine the broken binding will have some, because I think he's doing something probably of the paperback.
I mean, I like to go into shops and sign your books, RJ.
Well, that's good because you can't send them back once they're ruined, Gav. You've got to sell them then. Should we get?
Did I just break the conversation there?
Another theme of the evening, I feel, in fairness.
I like that. This is the first time on the podcast, and RJ says it's the worst one you've ever done, ever.
I am thinking of calling this one The Broken Conversation, to be honest.
Yeah. Gav ruins Writeopolis.
I've got nothing.
Should we do Gav's text?
I'm actually genuinely a little excited to hear this. So yes, let's do that.
You explain it.
What?
You explain it to him, Kit, while I explain to people. People are asking me about signed copies, which is
okay, yeah, sure, yeah, all right, yeah. You go and talk to your fans, RJ. Don't worry, I'll keep the show on the road. No, that's fine. Of course, that's fine. Why wouldn't I want it? That's fine. I don't want signed copies of my books. I want signed copies of your books. That's fine.
You should want signed copies of your books.
Yes, they should, RJ.
I mean, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but I am a writer as well.
No, I know you are, and that's why this next question is so important. So, what I want to ask you about, Gavin, is your text. So, what is the probably book, novel, although it may be a series of novels, or it may potentially be a movie, I guess, or TV show even, that you encountered at perhaps a slightly too young age that cemented in your mind, that kind of, no, not cemented in your mind, that really impacted on you the possibilities inherent in storytelling and gave you that initial hunger to want to tell stories of your own?
Well, I really, really have a shameful fictional past. I read a lot
Gavin,
as a kid.
we want your shameful real past.
I read utter trash. I mean, I really did read the pulpiest of pulpy nonsense that was available in the 1980s. But I think the things that I think I was a bit older before I started reading good stuff,
right,
if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And I think that came with I think it was 15 or 16 years old, and a friend of mine in Scotland gave me The Wasp Factory and said, you must read this. And it just wasn't. It completely wasn't like anything else that I'd ever read, and I was pure genre there. I just wanted to read genre stuff. Right. I didn't know what I was reading. I didn't really understand why I liked it, but it was just so good. And I think that's probably the first book. Although I was reading a lot of cyberpunk at the time, and I'm not sure. I guess it obviously did have a huge effect on me, because sort of the first books that I got published were reasonably cyberpunky. But I think the other two things that really, really made a difference were Aliens.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I remember that. I distinctly know where and what I was doing when I saw that. And, I was 12 at the time and it was 18. And me and a friend sort of watched it back to back 3 times throughout the night. And I remember that was a huge turning point for me, and that things were just not going to be quite the same ever again. And I think the other one is probably Slain from 2000 AD.
Oh yes, yes.
But and if you mix into that a whole load of tabletop role-playing games, a whole load of comics, things like George R. R. Martin's Wildcard series, which were kind of really important to me as a kid, and kind of the best of the pulpy stuff that I was reading, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's where it sort of comes from.
That's good. I mean, the Wasp Factory is. I think I was 14 or 15 when I read that, and that is that is your world is no longer the same when you finish reading that book, especially I think at that age, because I think similar to you, I was reading a lot of pulp horror, and I didn't have any frame of reference for what the Wasp Factory did. That was the thing about it. And yeah, and I think still, I mean, Banks is one of my idols, I think, as a writer. I think, I mean, almost everything about Banks. I mean, obviously the quality of what he put out, but I love his pattern of work. I love the fact that he alternated between science fiction and, I mean, whatever he wanted, right? Literary. I mean, I guess it was literary fiction, technically. I always think of it as horror, but crime, whatever he wanted to do. And that pattern of work where he alternated between the two, and he clearly loved doing both. And yeah, I think he was an incredible, I mean, just a world-class talent. So yeah, that's
one of the reasons that I started
good
writing
choice,
novels was to meet Iain Banks. That was I didn't even know you could go to a convention and meet writers there. I thought you had to become a writer to meet other writers. So that's why I was writing novels, and I never made it. I'm absolutely gutted. I wasn't just telling him. You're one of the reasons I'm doing it.
So my first ever convention was an EasterCon, and I remember my first meeting with my then editor, Simon Spanton, and he says, "You've got to go to conventions and you've got to have a presence online." And I was like, "What?" I got into this job so I can sit in a room on my own, listen to music I like.
Didn't we all?
Well,
Didn't we all?
Writing conventions are very strange places. It's a building full of introverts all trying to be noticed. I mean, it's a flawed idea at the best of times. But the first EasterCon, he was, I think he was the just seen fiddles. Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Fiddles, indoor work and no heavy lifting. Yeah. But first EasterCon, he was there, and of course, a lot of the people I was with knew him, and I basically humiliated myself by going up and fan gushing at him. But I might as well have run up, licked him, and said, "I'm your biggest fan." And he was very kind and all what, but it was. I sort of think back on that and still sort of cringe a lot.
What are you meant to do,
I know
though?
that,
I mean,
don't lick authors from Katie. I know that now.
Yeah, you're a little late with that advice there, Katie, if I may say so.
But Iain Banks, Alicia. And then some years later, there was somebody organising an evening with Iain Banks in Leicester. And I knew them. They worked for the local council, and they sort of contacted me and said, "You want to come along to this and meet Iain?" Unfortunately, it was the same day as my sister's graduation, so I couldn't do it. But the thinking in your mind is, well, there's always time, and shortly afterwards, the news broke. Sorry, I feel that I've brought it down again, but yes, it was incredibly upsetting.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it was one of those things where I think I just assumed he was going to go forever functioning. You know what I mean? Like, because he seemed fine and he was working, and like I say, he had that work pattern that I really admired as well, where he was doing, and it felt a real bolt from the blue, and just such a loss, such an incredible loss. Because you felt he had so much more to do, And
I felt with his culture books, he was building up to something. There was a kind of... I felt that there was something coming in those books that he was setting up, and it never happened. Gutted. But we've got...
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing the last interview he did, which I think was with Newsnight, and even in that, and it was so... I mean, he talked about the fact that he did a lot of composing in his spare time, which I found just absurdly delightful. That he spent God knows how many hours when he wasn't writing just pootling around with a keyboard and a computer with no intention of it being broadcast. I thought, oh my God. But he also said that, I remember him saying, like, and I am actually, he said, because he was a planner, like he would write a novel in 3 months, and the first month would be planning, and then he'd actually write the text in 2 months. So he was clearly a very organised kind of writer. And I remember him saying, obviously I am trying all the chemo and I'm doing all the stuff. And he said, and I am at the moment I'm writing the notes for the next culture book just in case I make it, and I just remember thinking like, oh my god, just the yeah.
We all miss Iain Banks.
We miss Iain Banks. We certainly do.
I once spoke to one of the foreign publishers, and they were saying, "Who's your favourite author?" And I said, "It's Iain Banks. I love Iain Banks' stuff." Well, one of your favourite authors, and he said, "I knew Iain quite well. Lovely man, ferociously talented, always drunk."
Oh, that's it. I've found what I want on my gravestone. That's it. That's the greatest epitaph anyone will ever have, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, was he always drunk, or was he just from Fife? I should point out I'm from Dundee, which is across the Tay from Fife, and there's where I grew up. The joke about Fifers. So.
Should we get onto the Writeopolis playlist, Kit?
I think we should, because the hour grows late and Italy have equalised, so I think we should definitely do that.
Yeah, that's and should we let Gavin go first?
We should definitely we should let Gavin go first as the honoured guest. I think Gavin should pick. So, you go ahead.
You go ahead this time, Kit.
I was just going to say, well, this normally surprises me, actually, because I normally forget that we do it. So we've got a Writeopolis playlist. So we all... Why was that so funny? I mean, it was a bit funny, but I don't think it was that funny, was it? Really? Okay, thanks for that. So anyway, the Writeopolis playlist, if you've quite finished, is it's a playlist of songs picked by guests on the show. So every fortnight we get the guests. So it could be a song, it could be anything too. It could be something you've heard recently that really turns you on. It could be one of your favourite songs of all time, whatever you want. But it's a song that will go. It will become immortal as part of the Writeopolis playlist.
If I remember to put it on.
If he remembers to put it on. Well, and he can read his own handwriting, which he often can't.
Yeah.
And you want me to go first?
Please.
Okay, so I guess you both know that I'm a lifelong fan of metal, particularly industrial metal, and particularly like the various progressive forms of metal. So bearing in mind, I mean, that is a form of music that has 20-minute long songs and things like that. So bearing this all in mind, I am going to choose Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, or Shaka Khan and Rufus, depending on which version you listen to.
That's a good song.
It is probably my favourite single of all times.
That's a brilliant song. I actually have, Kit, if we can do this, Scott left me with a song.
Yeah, fine. Go ahead. Sounds good.
Are we going to allow it, even though he's...
Yeah, even though he's a traitor.
Is it a football song?
No, it isn't. Scott chose Mr. Brownstone off Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses.
That's a good pick.
What about you, Kit?
Yeah, I think I was going to go with... I think I'm going to go with Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses by a weird coincidence, because I think... I was thinking about it, like, I hadn't actually put any songs from Appetite on yet, and I think what it highlights for me is that the genius strength of Guns N' Roses songwriting was the tempo changes. Like, a lot of bands of that era didn't really appreciate what they were doing with that kind of thing, especially at the time. And if you listen to the way Welcome to the Jungle has that breakdown, after the there's the kind of extended middle eight, the guitar solo, and it breaks down into that tom pattern and the screeching guitars. I think it's just genius. That's all. It's absolute genius songwriting, and it requires a kind of instinctive understanding of when you can break the rules. And I think,
really bizarre
I can just go.
No, because a really bizarre coincidence here is that I've chosen Night Train.
No,
Appetite for Destruction. Yeah, and
that's so weird.
Isn't it really odd? It's almost as if we planned this. It's really weird. And I just think it's an example of a band working on all cylinders. Yeah, and proving the sort of punk ethic that it's not about being great musicians. It's about just delivering.
It's about feeling it.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Very much.
Yeah.
So I see the question in the chat is, can we have Gavin back again, please? And I think the answer is absolutely not. I think there
Well,
might
come on,
be a
there's a
lot
lot
of
more
people
tracks
wondering.
on
A
appetite
lot of
restriction.
people
Gavin, there's only
wondering
like
what's going on here.
there's only like 12 or 14 tracks on Appetite for Destruction. You've only got to come on 4 more times, and we can't do that joke anymore. So, like, really?
Yeah, but I mean, does anybody know what this is about?
We do.
We
You
do.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you two are having a great time.
Actually, in fairness, I'm not sure Scott knew what it was about either. To be fair, I think we strong-armed Scott into it, and even he didn't know why it was going to be funny.
No.
Scott was like, I'm watching The Football Man. What do you want? You need to pick a song from Appetite for Destruction. Why? Just pick the song, Scott.
It's like you were there, man.
It's Gav's favourite record.
It is from Gav's favourite band. So in his honour.
So the thing is, I neither dislike Appetite or dislike Guns N' Roses. I just explained to you a couple of very obvious problems with the album, and you both lost your mind.
Is it problems or is it genius that you don't appreciate, Gavin? That's my question to you.
I think we both know what it is, Kit. Really.
We do. Oh, dearie me.
That was worth having Gav on for.
You didn't want me on here at all, did you? This is basically
all for that moment.
10 minutes of mucking around trying to get the sound working, and then an hour-long lead-in to a joke which nobody else listening to is going to get.
Very much.
Gavin, you knew RJ before you came on, though, so my sympathy is fairly limited at this point. I mean, okay, but this really has been the most fun of.
We should give Gavin the opportunity probably to plug his most recent book.
We really should after that, because that was outrageous. Bit. I'm sorry. I'm a little embarrassed. I'll let you talk me into it, RJ. To be honest, yeah, Gavin, please go ahead.
I like the way that you're now turning on each other, much like Axl Rose and Slash.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's what it is. It's the
you are the Axl Rose and Slash of the book podcast community.
And I cannot stress this enough. If RJ is the Axl Rose, I'm not having it, okay? I'm not having it.
I'm sorry. One of us has long strawberry blonde straight hair and one of us has lots of curly hair. It's quite obvious who's who, Kit.
I'm not having it.
All right.
Can't I be easy? I'll be easy. That's fine. I'll be easy. I'll settle for easy.
Easy's the coolest member.
Exactly. Go ahead, Gav.
He wasn't allowed back, sadly.
No.
So, Kate's asked a question. Yeah, Gavin, what have you written and where can we get signed copies? The signed copies, I don't know.
If you speak to Broken Binding on Twitter, he will arrange it, Gavin.
Okay, so Broken Binding, once I have spoken to Broken Binding. Is the answer. The current book that I am pushing at the moment is called Spec Ops Z. It is an alternate history World War III zombie apocalypse novel. It's really upbeat. And it's basically about a group of sentient zombies who are trying to go home after triggering the zombie apocalypse as part of a first strike against the United States. Does it have flares in it like Chivalry? Nobody has a black powder charge put up their bottom in Spec Ops Z. That does happen in my novella Chivalry, so I apologise for the spoilers there.
Did you see the hashtag not over it? That is like...
I read that as not overt.
No, I think that's not over it. That's a hashtag that all writers should aspire to get at least once in their lives. So high praise there, Gavin.
Well, I think I know who that is. Tweeting, and when they read it, they posted up a picture of a chocolate donut on my feed, which I actually found really disturbing. Suddenly there's a lot of people typing. I
I've noticed that, yeah.
I think it's one of these things. It was a decision I made for the story, which made a lot of sense at the time.
Yeah. I do love that. That is a weird thing about writing, is that you can occasionally be squicked out by something you yourself wrote. It doesn't feel like that should be true, but it is actually something that can happen.
Yeah, you kind of led odd places. I'm sort of with Sarah Pinborough on this. Said if you've lost control of your writing, you're not. Yeah, that kind of the characters having a life of their own. She doesn't really believe that, but story logic, character behavior, and things like that sometimes lead you to really, really strange places. And in that particular case, I was just sitting there thinking, okay, they need somebody to talk. They need them to talk quickly. They don't like them. With the resources they have to hand, what is the fastest way to make that happen? So, a black powder charge and a fuse in somebody's bottom.
When you say it like that, it almost sounds like it makes sense.
Well, I mean, I feel I've been made out to be the bad guy here, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Well, back to what we were talking about.
What are the sub-theme to the evening in Venice? Our work here is done, RJ.
Yeah.
Oh dear. This has been an absolute delight, you two. Can I just say?
This has been the longest build-up to a joke that nobody is going to get, I think I've ever been involved in.
Well, you've just given us a target for if we do this with you again.
Absolutely.
We'll need a new
there isn't even a playlist, is there?
Oh, there is. Yeah.
No, there is. We didn't actually lie about the playlist, no.
Yeah,
and all those songs will be added to it, just to be clear.
Right.
Yeah.
That will happen.
Right. So there'll just be that moment of Shaka Khan joy against some of Guns N' Roses' more ordinary songs.
Your place in the legend is assured, Gav. You have assured it tonight.
We've had to ban Kit from putting Bruce Springsteen on it because it was just...
That's true. I did get banned. Yeah. True.
That was... Bruce Springsteen's done some great stuff.
Now you know why I was so angry about you calling him the saxophonist when it was the rhythm. Unreasonably fervent response from me. Yeah, I
did feel I got slapped down.
Yeah. No, that was my shit, not your shit, Gavin. Don't worry. That's me.
The funny thing is, I know that. It was just a momentary mental.
I see.
Some brain fart, I think. I am aware of that.
Because if it had been a wind-up, I would have respected that. That would have been a good wind-up. And I did deserve it, so fair enough.
I've had a very fun 4 days because we've had some time off and my partner's had some time off, but I am now very hot and knackered, so I'm not sure how much sense I'm making.
Go to sleep, Gavin.
Yeah.
We've had an excellent night. And Kit will edit it to make you appear far worse than you actually were.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
I had assumed that because people were interacting, this was kind of live, but
well, it is.
It is,
but it's.
But you're going to edit it as well.
Yeah, I've got an audio afterwards. Yeah. In all seriousness, I am happy to send you a copy before it goes public if you'd like to hear it.
No,
I don't mind. I really don't. I'm happy to do that.
I trust you guys and probably don't care about my public persona that much. So
that's the spirit.
Do we know who we have next fortnight, Kit?
I don't think we do. You've thrown a ton of names at me, but I don't know who's coming when. I don't know who's booked in for when, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I haven't been paying that close attention because I didn't book them. So if you want to stall for 30 seconds, I can nip back into our group chat and see if you've actually confirmed any of the dates.
Okay. I've not got any dates. I've just got people. So we've got
a lot of people, but no dates. So
we've got some interesting people lined up. We've got a children's author lined up. We've got some other authors lined up.
Yeah. Well, we've got at least one indie horror publisher lined up, but they're just rather cynically, I think, waiting until they've got a big release to plug, which I thought bordered on. I don't know what really.
That's not the spirit of Writeopolis.
Not really. But we'll give them grief when they turn up.
Yeah,
well, that's all right.
Find out which album they absolutely hate. And with that, it has been a fantastic night, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll look at John Robertson. Yes, I'll contact him. Good night, everyone. Have a really good one.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you both for letting me come on Writeopolis, but then I was on Writeopolis. I'm not sure I want to anymore.
Well,
so
the people want you. The people want you back, Gavin. They're already requesting a return bout, and that does. I have to be candid with you. That doesn't always happen. So,
thanks everybody for turning up. I guess there's no. Even one of the hosts didn't turn up because of the football, but it's nice to see people who turned up despite all the shenanigans that are going on in the larger world, sporting-wise.
Yeah.
We're not sold on the football here.
We're really not.
Yeah.
In which case, I'm going to say good night to everybody.
Good night, everyone. And
then try and work out how to switch off Discord.
Oh, there's a little thing and you click it.
See you in a couple of days.
Fortnight. Yeah.
And on that bombshell.
Thanks for listening. Writeopolis records alternating Sundays via Discord. To take part in future shows, visit patreon.com/Writeopolis podcast to find our server details. You can also support the show there in return for Discord perks and early access. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and spread the word. Thanks again. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.